Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here today. We'll be providing an additional update as we have moved now into the investigation phase of this tragic incident. I'll be making some prepared remarks and will not be taking questions. My name is Chief Sean Barnes, Shonbarnes, and I'm the Chief of Police for the Madison Police Department. The past 24 hours have been a flurry of emotion, sadness, anger, disappointment, grief for the Madison community. We were brought together by a tragedy, and today 3 families woke up this morning to a world without a loved one. And that can never be outdone. In the midst of this tragedy, our community has come together in an incredible demonstration of support from Madison and indeed the state of Wisconsin and our nation. I cannot express enough gratitude to the many emergency response agencies who provided direct support to the Madison Police Department. We could not be standing here today without the men and women of law enforcement, specifically the Madison Fire Department, surrounding EMS agencies, Dane County Sheriff's Office, Monona PD, Oregon PD, the University of Wisconsin Police Department, the ATF, the FBI, Fitchburg Police Department, and Cottage Grove. A special thank you from me to all of these agencies. Thank you so much. These agencies and many others responded to the scene and or took calls for service within the city of Madison to allow us to focus on this tragic incident. Student reunification with their loved ones could not have happened as swiftly as it did without the assistance of SSM Health Dean Medical Clinic as well as the Quick Trip. Additionally, many people worked well into the night and supported local restaurants and community who came together and provided food and other logistical support for our team. Yesterday, we came together as one team, as one Madison, as one country, and we should feel incredibly proud about our response. I'll be providing some updates at this time, but before I do that, I'd like to provide an important clarification. Yesterday, after looking at the computer-aided dispatch system, it seems as if a call came from a second grader. It actually read the call came from a second grade teacher. That was a mistake. That's my responsibility, and I apologize, and I clarify that today. It did not come from a second grader. It read second grade teacher. I will also be providing several investigative updates from the 8 p.m. briefing from last night. The Madison Police Department is committed to transparency and will continue to release information that can be used to improve public safety. This must be balanced against our commitment to the victims of this horrific crime and the need to do a thorough and complete investigation. As a result, I recognize many of you may have questions that I cannot answer at this time. I ask for you to keep the victims in your mind and respect their right to a thorough investigation. I also will not be taking questions at the conclusion of this press conference, but your pre-submitted questions serve as the basis for updates that we're providing for you this afternoon. If your question is not answered, it is due to an ongoing investigation. Okay. We know a document has been widely shared on social media. At this time, we cannot verify its authenticity. We have detectives working today to determine where this document originated and who actually shared it online. At this time, we cannot verify the document. We ask that you not share the document or spread any information that may be false. our department will provide an update on this document when we can. There are always signs of a school shooting before it occurred. Some of you have reached out about Rupnow's social media activity prior to yesterday's shooting. We're looking into her online activity. We're asking anyone who knew her or who may have insights into her feelings leading up to yesterday to please contact the Madison Area Crime Stoppers. Again, anyone who may have known her or knew what she was feeling or going through at that time, please direct those inquiries to Madison Area Crime Stoppers. That number is 608-266-6014 or at P3 Tips. P3 Tips. We will not be releasing specifics about these social media accounts at this time. Identifying a motive is our top priority, but at this time it appears that the motive was a combination of factors. Again, we cannot share that information at this time because we do not want to jeopardize the investigation and those who are currently cooperating with us. All patient status remain unchanged. The 911 calls are the record of the 911 Communications Center, and their standing operating procedure is not to release documents in open and active investigations. Again, we are working to authenticate the documents that you see online that some are referring to as a manifesto. And as soon as we do that, we will let you know. Now, the process for doing that is looking at original documents that may have been taken from the suspect's home, looking at information that may be on laptops or on computer to determine if this document originated from our suspect. Any disciplinary records would be under the purview of the school. Some of you have asked whether or not she was troubled or whether or not she was troubled at school. We do not have those records. We're not the proprietor of those. On the question of bullying, we're talking to students to understand whether bullying was one of those multiple factors that I mentioned earlier. Some have asked if people were specifically targeted. Everyone was targeted in this incident, and everyone was put in equal danger. Today, numerous MMSD schools were targeted by false threats, often known as swatting. We're working closely with the Madison Metropolitan School District to determine where these originated and to investigate this call. We do not believe that there are any current threats to any Madison area schools and will continue to investigate these calls and any threats of violence as they come in. Let me be clear on this point. Making false threats is a crime, and we are working with the district attorneys to prosecute these crimes as information is gathered. And if we have to do that, we certainly will. I encourage all parents, all family members to talk to your loved ones about this. We will determine where they originated. We'll use federal partners if we have to and levy those charges as well. As we continue to investigate what happened yesterday, we're keeping the victims and their families in the front of our minds. We want to thank the countless people and organizations who've reached out to support them, as well as the Dane County Victim Witness Unit and the Dane County Emergency Management, who provided direct support to the families. To the Abundant Life Christian Academy, this is a hurting and haunting situation, and the many survivors will need our continued support, and we pledge to give them that in the days, months, and even years ahead. As a community, we must not allow violence or any act of violence to define us. We refuse to allow hate or destruction to win in this city. But rather, we will honor our survivors, our victims, through love, support, and the Madison way. Please continue to take care of yourself and take care of each other. At this time, we have several officers who are working today who was working yesterday. They were given the opportunity to stay home on what we commonly refer to as an administrative day. They were offered peer support, emergency assistance program through our city. But those officers chose to come to work today and serve their community. So at the end of my remarks, I'm going to find each and every one of them and personally shake their hand and thank them on behalf of a grateful city, and a grateful administration, and a grateful department and profession for their act of selfless public service. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I want to start where the Chief ended, which is just asking everyone in this room and within the sound of my voice to take a minute. It's been an incredibly difficult 24 plus hours at this point in time. We're all human, including each and every one of you in the media who is covering this really tragic event. Please remember that you're human and take care of yourselves. We all need to do that. Drink water, take a moment, access whatever mental health resources you need, because that's our job now, is to take care of ourselves so we can take care of each other and our community. Yesterday, the Madison community experienced a terrible and traumatic event. If there's any positive in it, it's that the educators at Abundant Life, our local law enforcement and first responders, and our community partners were prepared to respond. They acted without hesitation to protect our children, and I'm grateful and humbled by their actions. It's a day that I hoped never would come to our city, but like so many other communities, here we are. We will never be the same, but we will get through this together. I want to ask again that everyone, please respect the privacy of the victims, their families, and those in the Abundant Life community. Right now, our full focus is on caring for those impacted. First and foremost, the victims and their families, the Abundant Life students and educators, our first responders, the students and educators across the city who woke up this morning and went into a school building not knowing if they would come home tonight. The incredible bravery of that act. I think all of our students and educators are feeling scared and vulnerable right now. We are also trying to care for our whole community, because I believe we are all fearful and grieving and impacted. The City of Madison is working closely with Dane County, with community partners, with state and federal government resources to provide support and counseling to all those affected. I want to direct folks to a new city resource website that's available at cityofmadison.com/resources, which includes trauma-informed community resources, updates, community mental health resources, and information about vigils, other public events, and where folks can donate to support the Abundant Life families and our community. I want to highlight two things that are also on that website, and once again, that website is cityofmadison.com/resources. If you wish to support the families, the request is that come in the form of financial support through a site set up by the United Way of Dane County. You can visit unitedwaydanecounty.org, or you can text HELP for ALCS to 40403. Again, that's HELP numeral 4 ALCS to 40403. The community is also invited to a vigil tonight by the Vel Phillips statue at the Capitol at 6 p.m. Again, that's at the Capitol building by the Vel Phillips statue at 6 p.m. I would ask that everyone, and particularly the folks in this room, please avoid spreading misinformation, particularly via social media. Please vet what you share, even if your wish to share is well-intentioned. There is so much that we do not know at this point, and we have to allow law enforcement the time and space for a careful and methodological investigation. Let them do their jobs. And above all, please respect the victims, respect the families, respect the school community, particularly on social media. I want to say a huge thank you again to all of our partners and those across the country who have reached out offering support and well wishes, including President Biden, who I talked to yesterday, Senator Baldwin, who I talked to yesterday, Congressman Pocan, Governor Evers, who called, and many others at every level of government and all across our community. I want to thank most particularly our first responders and everyone who mobilized yesterday to help. Certainly Madison Police Department and the many law enforcement agencies that were mobilized, the Madison Fire Department, the Sheriff, the State Patrol, the FBI, the ATF. I want to thank our hospitals that cared for the victims and the medical staff there. I want to thank Dane County, in particular, Emergency Management and the Victim Services Unit. They have been incredible. I want to thank SSM Health and the Dean Clinic. They, without hesitation, made their facility available to us. They canceled all appointments. They rearranged the facility. They put their staff at our disposal to make sure that the Abundant Life families could be reunited with their students. I couldn't be more grateful to them. I want to thank the United Way, both for setting up the donation site and for mobilizing resources across our community. I want to thank the Red Cross and the Salvation Army, the religious leaders who came to the reunification site yesterday from across our community, and all of the community organizations and businesses that donated food and resources to the families and are still now offering support for our community. There are so many people who have offered support, resources, help, and well wishes, and we are grateful to every single one of them. I want to end where I started, which is centering our collective humanity. We all have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of each other and our community. Whatever your belief or tradition is, I would ask that you find a way today, tomorrow, in the coming weeks, months, and years to be kind, to give grace, and to find ways, big or small, to help make our community a safer place for all of our children. Thank you, and I'll turn the podium to the county executive.
Sorry, before you go, can you introduce
We'll answer
yourself?
questions.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I forget that you're not all local. My name is Satya Rhodes Conway. I'm the mayor of Madison. That's S-A-T-Y-A, last name R-H-O-D-E-S-C-O-N-W-A-Y. Satya Rhodes Conway, mayor of Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm County Executive Melissa Agard, M-E-L-I-S-S-A, A-G-A-R-D. It's unfortunate that we are still having to navigate this absolutely horrific situation in our community. I come before you today as a community leader, as a mom, as a fellow Dane County resident, and like many of you, someone who is continuing to process what unfolded yesterday at Abundant Life Christian School and across our community. My heart aches for the students and families and teachers and the first responders at all levels, from the 911 officers to the folks that are at our coroner's office. Every single one of us has been impacted in an unimaginable reality by this situation. Our kids, my kids, teachers across our community, and in fact across our nation, had to wake up and go to school today, and that was an act of bravery. Parents dropping their children off at after what we witnessed yesterday took an act of bravery and a belief in our community. And that's a bravery we should not have to put on the shoulders of our children and our families and our community. Let me be clear. These everyday actions that we have all experienced over the last 24 plus hours should not require bravery. They should be routine and joyful, especially at the end of a year, wrapping up a semester. Our kids should be laughing and learning and thinking about pajama day as they're heading into the holiday season. But right now, that's not the case. And right now, it's okay to not feel okay. That's how we move forward. And for some, the weight of this tragedy is overwhelming. I'm sure they're feeling sad and anxious and numb. We've heard that even from our police chief. And for others, they might just be feeling a little bit off, unsettled by the images that our news coverage is delivering to them in the fast-breaking social media world. And it's playing on repeat. And I am grateful for what it is that you all do. But this is impacting people in a different way. And I want you all to know, and people across our community, that their feelings are valid and they are not alone. Seeking support, talking to someone you trust, simply admitting that you're not okay is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. And whether you're feeling hopeless or scared or just not quite yourself, know that there are resources here in Dane County and in our community that will be here and continue to be here to support you in order to help people move forward through the healing process. Believe me, we are in this together. That is the Dane County way. That's what we do best. Through painful conversations and tears and hugs and vigils, we're going to heal. We're not going to be the same, but we're going to heal. Part of that process is setting aside complacency and demanding change. As someone who served 12 years in our legislature and had a front row seat to the inaction of addressing gun violence in our communities, I'm not stepping aside from that mission in my life. There's going to be public debate about the motives and other aspects of this mass shooting. But let us remember this fact. Gun violence is the #1 killer of children in this country. That's a legacy we cannot accept. We cannot accept that. Part of the reason I feel so pained by this tragedy is that mass shootings feel like something that's ominous and hovering, and we're all wondering where and when the next one is going to occur. And guess what? It happened here. It happened right here. And I am so proud of the folks that I work with at the county and that the mayor works with in the city and our partners at the federal, state, and local level, and how it is that we've stepped up and responded to support people. Could we do better? Could we do different? I am sure. But did we do well? I am proud of the work that has been done in this community over the last 24 hours. And I assure you all today that we are going to continue to work like hell to stop future tragedies and to support our community that has been harmed by these actions. And for anyone that's out there listening, Anywhere in this amazing world that we live, whether you're grieving or you're scared or you're angry or you're unsure or you're curious, take care of yourself, take care of the people who you love and whose lives you touch. Talk to someone, anyone. If you're not comfortable calling a number, there is someone in your life you can reach out to. No one is alone through this. We are strong in Dane County, and together we're going to get through this. And I know that there are questions that we all want answers to. And I am hopeful that we will have those answers sooner than longer. But please give us the time to do this right so that we can learn how to prevent this from happening in the future and support those that have been most impacted in our community. We are doing everything in our power at all levels in a collaborative way to prevent this type of pain from ever happening again in our community. Can I assure that? No, but we are going to work as best as we can to that end. So thank you to each of you for carrying these stories, for taking care of yourselves, and for delivering these messages to the people in our community that just want one more piece of information. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right. The county executive and I will take some questions. We obviously cannot answer questions about the investigation, but happy to take others, and we'll turn to Dylan.
Sure. Lucas from the State Journal.
Just for the county executive, as a former lawmaker, can you just talk generally about what the laws are in Wisconsin in terms of children's access to guns?
Our laws in Wisconsin are far too lax when it comes to access of guns by children. And I do believe that we should have safe storage laws. We should have background checks. We should have red flag bills. We should be providing adequate support for everyone in our community when it comes to behavioral health. People should not be waiting when they raise their hand and ask for help. And there should not be stigma surrounding people who are asking for that help. Our schools should be adequately funded. Our Department of Justice has an Office of School Safety. They don't have enough resources, and that is on the legislature. There is a lot of action that can be taken in the Wisconsin State Capitol, but this is a conversation that needs to happen from coast to coast. We need partners in our federal government to also address this because states have borders and people can cross them.
Okay, Maddie from WIC.
As public officials, can you speak to the process of vetting information before sharing it publicly, what that looks like behind the scenes?
We can try. I think it depends, but we have a process within, obviously, both police and fire have public information officers who work with the principals to gather and vet information and share it out. Similarly, in my office, we have a communications manager who works with us. In terms of the investigation, I can't really speak to that process, but there is a process within law enforcement to decide what information can be shared that won't jeopardize the investigation, and then to do our best to verify information before we're sharing it publicly. Obviously, in an event like this, there is a lot of chaos, and it can be difficult to parse out where information is coming from and how accurate it is at any given time. And so in a developing scene, sometimes we will share information that's not 100% correct. But as you've seen already, the chief comes back and tries to give out the best information we can and correct any mistakes.
Scott, do you have anything?
Do either of you believe that there ought to be charges brought against the parents or anyone else involved in this incident?
Don't know enough.
I think it's far too early to comment on that. As the investigation proceeds, I think law enforcement will take the steps necessary, but we don't know nearly enough yet.
Cody, do you have a question? Okay, Madison.
CNS Police Chief Sean Barnes is not here. Maybe somebody else who's here with law enforcement can speak to this. He mentioned yesterday that the family or the father seems to be cooperating. If you drive past the house that they were searching, it doesn't look like the home of somebody who's cooperating. So maybe can you explain to an untrained eye the state and the condition of the home and the manner of which it is in at the moment?
Is there anyone here that can speak to that? Sorry, we'll have to follow up on that for you.
Chloe?
Again, I'm not sure if anyone is able to speak to this, but I know Chief Barnes kind of briefly mentioned that students are talking about if the suspect is, talking or was bullied. Is there anyone that can speak to that right now? Students are coming forward at this time and sharing what they saw and heard in school yesterday or their relationship with the student.
So I think broadly, at this point in time, it's a very active investigation. You heard the chief ask folks who want to share any information that they may have to share that via Crime Stalkers, and I would echo that if anybody has information that's relevant to the investigation, to please share it through Crime Stalkers. I think today is going to be a very difficult day for all of our students in Madison. I know that our schools and teachers are doing their best to support kids. And I think the county exec has kids, as I do not, so she may know more about that.
So I do have a son in our Madison schools, and it was hard for him to get up and go to school today. And then the school was locked down because many schools in Madison area were locked down due to swatting. And that was triggering not only to him and his peers, but to family members and educators. And the world that our kids are in now is very different than the one I grew up in. They have access to social media and digital communication in the palm of their hands. And they are oftentimes sharing information that has no source. It is our jobs as adults and as folks on the front lines to remind them that nothing is valid that they are sharing at this point in time, but to be there as they continue to process this. Again, my message to my son and to his friends and to other families that have been reaching out is if you do feel that you have any information, if you feel like it might be something that would be helpful and you're not quite sure, you should still call Crime Stoppers. The smallest piece of information could be the last piece of information that we need. So don't second guess yourself. Please reach out to Crime Stoppers. Parents, support your children through this as they are navigating. It is a very confusing path for them, and my kids seem to know more than I do right now as this is going on because of the fact that that digital device is in their hands. And we need to help them know that they should be putting that down and slowing their worlds down as we're navigating our way through this. Thank you.
Shalini from WORT.
I'm sure you've been on the phone continuously and have to take certain calls. Could you talk about any conversations you've had with other MMSD or other schools in the area?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I have been in touch with the superintendent, and my staff have been in touch with his staff. Initially, it was just making sure that everybody had all the same information and some strategizing collectively about how to make sure that MMSD schools were safe. As the time goes on, you have seen this already, I'm sure, that MMSD is sharing information out with their families about how to support kids. They've shared information out with their faculty and staff about how to support kids going forward. That is something that we will continue to talk about, is how we can support, again, the students who I'm sure are confused, afraid, worried, the parents feeling the same, and of course our educators. That is part of the work going forward. I do also want to just recognize that there are schools, obviously, in our community that are not part of the Madison Metropolitan School District, and we are reaching out to them as well and making sure that they are supported and have the same level of resources. And that support is coming definitely from the state, but also from the county and the city, and will come more as we go forward. Do you want to add anything?
Cameron from WMTV.
Yesterday when you guys briefed us, you told us that staff and students immediately left the building. Something else car, some coat, all of those things. So could you ask what the status of the building is, and if there is a timeline in place for people to return back?
I don't have all of those details, but what I can tell you is that yesterday there was a process of folks leaving the building and then obviously being reunited with their families. The building is a crime scene and will be under investigation for some time to come now. But obviously the police department will work with the school and the leadership at the school to do what they can to make sure that people have access to things that they need.
All right, James from WISN.
Yeah, my question is for law enforcement and or DOJ. Yesterday it was said, and I want to quote this, there are almost always observable behaviors before something like this happens. And I see Trish nodding her head. Can you share what observable behaviors specifically we see as this investigation unfolds from the suspect in this case?
So I think, again,
I want to address, because we did receive your question. I'm going to get in front of the microphones. As we mentioned earlier, any questions we can answer about the investigation, we answered in our update. So we cannot take any more follow-up questions about the investigation.
Are the observable behaviors in the social media accounts? That was not something that I said.
so again, it's an ongoing investigation. MPD will share information that they can as they can, but we're not able to speak to the investigation at this point in time.
All right, Anna from WPR.
Yeah, hi. Can you speak to the decision to keep MMST and other Dade County school districts open today, and whether that's going to change in light of the protocol from the
You know, we don't have anyone from the school district here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's a question for the school district.
I can tell you that there are many families that chose not to send their children to school today. It didn't feel like a day that they could go to school over. That was a highly personal decision that individual families made. I honor local control. I honor our local governments and our school boards and our superintendents, and they are navigating this best as they can for their communities.
All right, David from the Journal-Sentinel.
Hey, thanks for taking my question. I wanted to ask you about a timeline or any further information you give on the victims of this incident and kind of if there's any timeline for that might be.
I'm not aware of a timeline at this point in time. Thank you.
All right, Ian from CBS News.
Why didn't the school have a resource officer, and would having one have made a difference?
That's a question for Abundant Life. We can't answer that.
Would having resource officers, I'm told that Dawson doesn't have resource officers in their schools. Is this something that would
So again, that's a decision that's made by the individual schools and school districts, so it's not something that we can speak to.
Brianna?
Two questions, if I may. One, the police chief made a correction saying that it was actually a second grade teacher who made that 911 call. Have officials been in touch with that teacher? Is there anything you can share about who the teacher is?
There's nothing we can share at this point in time.
And then, are you able to speak to the general protocols about bullying? How does the school monitor bullying? Do they have protocols in place to monitor how that happens?
Again, we don't represent Abundant Life, and so we're not able to answer questions for the school.
All right, Shaq?
Is anyone from Abundant Life able to speak, or?
She just had a lady.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we got to wrap it up here, so we'll go.
Well, Mayor Conway, are you able to just say, I mean, right now we know the victims as students and teachers, nothing more. Can you just speak a little bit more to that? I understand you're trying to respect their privacy, but can you speak a little bit more to the personality? Were they engaged in sports? Were they beloved by the community?
I'm sorry, we can't share anything more at this time. And it's Rhodes Conway?
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. We really can't share that. Okay, so Adam from CBS 58.
Sure. So it's been 27 hours now. Why can't we share the identities of the victims?
It is my first priority, and I believe the priority of many of us here, to respect their privacy and their timeline. These are folks that have been deeply impacted by trauma and are grieving. And frankly, I think it should be up to them whether and if they want to share any personal identifying information with anyone at all. But it's not up to me. It's a law enforcement decision. And so when law enforcement feels like that's appropriate, they will share that information.
The shooter was named yesterday. Do you know why the victims were not named?
No, that's a law enforcement decision.
He unfortunately walked out the door, too. Do you know when we'll be able to talk to him?
I don't.
Adding off that question, I mean, we've been sitting here for the last 27 hours, as Adam mentioned. Why would you guys not have the proper people in place to answer some of these questions? You guys, including the fire chief, have sat here and tried to say that you want to dispel rumors on social media. You want to make sure that you're giving factual information. We're asking questions that have been circulating on social media, including rumors about the victims. Why not provide clarification and actually have people here to answer those questions to set the record straight?
I don't know how many times I can say this. We will share good factual information when we can. None of you is obliged to stay here. You're free to leave. You don't have to be sitting in this room if you don't want to. We will share information when we can. It's very important that that information be as factual as possible. All right, I'm going to say this and then we're done. It is absolutely none of y'all's business who was harmed in this incident. Please have some human decency and respect for the people who lost loved ones or were injured themselves or whose children were injured. Just have some human decency, folks. Leave them alone. Let them grieve. Let them recover. Let them heal. Don't feed off their pain. We'll share what we can when we can, and not before that. Thank you.
Is there another briefing scheduled?
There is not.